The primary purpose of using an IT governance system is to deliver value to stakeholders. Implementing these can yield benefits realization, risk optimization, and resource optimization, as well as assist in the proper alignment with compliance requirements based on risk. Now, in today's high-velocity and heavily compliant environments, digital transformation is key, and while business goals should be at the center of any digital transformation effort, these initiatives will require new I&T investment, and these things include things like big data, analytics, cloud computing, APIs, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and so on. But there are multiple frameworks, models, and standards to choose from to help you govern enterprise IT. A challenge for most organizations is simply understanding what all of these are and which ones are applicable or appropriate for them. Have you ever been in this situation where your organization has asked you to come up with a governance framework for IT? Now, again, the primary purpose is to deliver value to stakeholders. So where do you start? Some of the big challenges people run into are they look at COBIT, they look at ITIL, they look at multiple different frameworks, but what they fail to consider is having a family or an ecosystem of multiple frameworks that can help deliver value. In this short video, we'll talk about how to recognize the various drivers for information and technology governance frameworks. We'll understand the key ingredients to value creation, which is very important. Look at the different levels of IT governance. Of course, my tips on how to architect a holistic ecosystem. I love this slide. We're all on a quest to find the right framework. I joked about this earlier. So we have all these kits, these frameworks, these bodies of knowledge, and we're trying to find the right one. In an organization I was in, we had some challenges. I was overwhelmed with the frameworks. We had PMBOK, we had Prince2, we had ITIL, we had COBIT, we had TOGAF, we had multiple ISO standards, you name it. Everybody had a standard framework or body of knowledge that was going to save my company. But we had a challenge. We didn't know how to put these things together. Now, there are many drivers to adopting frameworks. We have a lot of complex systems out there. Remember back the virtualization days, we had BYOD. Now we've got digital transformation, which includes a multitude of technologies, which means we cannot become overly compliant or conformant to everything, because if we do, our performance will struggle. Of course, the rising demand for value creation and a competitive landscape out there, which says we need to have a repeatable means at creating value for our enterprise. We need to have models in place for how we invest and how we justify those investments. And the bottom line is this: we need to be able to meet stakeholder needs. Speaking of stakeholder needs, value creation is at the core of any framework you adopt. Stakeholder needs, and this is from COBIT 2019 framework, says, hey, there's an objective here around our governance initiative, and that's value creation. Number one, I need to have benefits realization. What I said this would do, it should do, and therefore needs to be linked back to organizational goals and objectives. Risk optimization, we need to be making informed decisions. And finally, resource optimization. Am I managing and am I governing the resources available to me to provide that value? Which takes me to my altitudes of governance. The first thing I want you to do is really look at the levels or layers of governance that you have in your organization. If you look at the top, we have enterprise governance. And enterprise governance, consider this as, say, your board of directors. What are they concerned with? They're concerned with balancing performance and conformance. On the performance side, what are some frameworks or tools we use there? Balanced scorecard. On the conformance side, we may use COSA, which is the Committee of Sponsoring Organizations. Skip the middle. Skip the governance of enterprise information and technology, because that's where most people fail, and they go right to the bottom when they go to the standards and frameworks. And again, this is the street view. This is where people are starting to adopt and adapt frameworks directly into their organization or their specific part of the organization, and that may not be adding value. We have things like frameworks, the IT Infrastructure Library, or formerly known as the IT Infrastructure Library, that's ITIL. We have standards, multiple ISO standards and NIST standards. We have bodies of knowledge, for example, the PMBOK, and of course others like regulations out there. But what's happening is there's a big gap. We are going from enterprise governance right down to the street view, and we don't have that thing in the middle that helps us govern information and technology. So what do I want to put in there? Of course, I want to have what I call the framework to manage frameworks, or middleware, if you will, which is COBIT. What this framework does is it helps us link our enterprise governance with the multitude of standards, frameworks, bodies of knowledge that we're using at the street view, and it allows us to now effectively govern and manage enterprise IT. I think this is an absolute huge message that I wanted you to get from this video. So if you're looking at how you might be able to adopt multiple standards, frameworks, especially using the COBIT framework, number one, understand how your levels of governance interact. Remember, we have enterprise governance, we have governance of enterprise IT, and then we have multiple different layers beneath that, which is what I call the street view. My suggestion to you is to look at COBIT as the framework integrator, like I mentioned before, the framework to manage frameworks, or maybe say middleware between multiple different frameworks out there. But again, you have to use more than one framework, but don't jump into so many that you get what I call framework fatigue. You can be overwhelmed. Pick the parts and the pieces that add the most value to your enterprise, and COBIT can help you do that. Of course, you have to train your stakeholders on the utility and the applicability of each of those frameworks. Although I am a trainer, I truly believe that training and education is very key. I can't tell you how many times organizations will send their staff to training when leadership doesn't go, and they expect that framework to magically appear in their organizations because they, quote unquote, already understand the framework. Make sure that every one of these contributes to value creation. Link these to business goals, link these to what your stakeholders are looking for, and you can build yourself an ecosystem of frameworks that will allow you to be more competitive, you can be more agile, and you will truly have governance of enterprise IT or enterprise governance over information and technology. For more information, of course, keep track on ascout.com. You can follow me at markthomasonline.com or Twitter at ascout1. Look forward to talking to you in future videos.